So Plato gets at his theory of the forms in many different ways in his works. Oftentimes it's just implicit, he assumes it. Sometimes he talks about it directly, but we never get a full text just about forms. It's always just kind of mixed here and there. So in order to explain it the best, we're going to give 3 examples. But before I do, I just want to kind of explain what the forms are in a general sense. So Plato is an idealist, and an idealist believes that there is a spiritual realm, okay, it's not necessarily physical, that things exist in a very archetypal or a very prime, immovable way. So there is a form for every physical thing, but there's only one form. So the idea of, say, a book, there is somewhere up in this realm a book, and all other books kind of comply to that form. They all look different, but they all look different because they're not perfectly complying to that form. They're just an example. So let me try to clarify that with some of Plato's actual words. He looks at, this is book 10 of the Republic, he looks at the idea of a chair. And he says, okay, so there's this ideal chair, wherever it is. Where is not really a big deal because it's not necessarily a place, it's kind of a it's not where. So anyway, there's an ideal chair, and so a craftsman is trying to make a chair, and what he does is he thinks about, okay, what is a chair? And he gets a chair in his mind, and he goes ahead and he builds a chair. Now that thing that he built is not the chair, it's a chair, and every other chair around is just a chair. They all look different, but they're all pointing to that one ideal chair. So in that way, the forms are the template for which other things kind of fit into, or they come out of, and but they are perfect. The ideal, the form is perfect. So another example he gives is in Book 7 of the Republic. This isn't necessarily talking about what the forms do as much as what they are. This is the allegory of the cave. Now, I have another video on the allegory of the cave, and I'll try to link that here, but in short, the allegory of the cave is an idea that, or it's a scenario where we have some guys, and they're chained to a cave, looking at the wall, and behind them there's a flame, and people are passing between the flame and them, and the flame is casting a shadow on the wall of the cave, and these people, they're tied up, and their heads are tied, and they can't see anything but the cave walls. Now, they think that the shadows on the walls are reality. They've never seen anything else. Eventually, someone comes and frees a guy from the cave. He comes out and sees reality. So that's a very short example of what the cave is, but that's also an idea of what the forms are. So the things that we see around us, they're the shadows, the forms are the reality. So Plato wants us to look to the forms, be learning about the forms, and be less concerned with the shadows. Finally, an example that we see throughout all of his dialogues as it comes to forms is the fact that he wants us to be seeing the forms in our inquiries about virtue. So I'm just going to give one example from the Laches, which is a dialogue on courage. So in all of Plato's dialogues, Socrates is trying to find out what a certain virtue is about. Most of them. Some of them are a little different, but most of them are, what is this virtue? So he goes in and he asks a bunch of people, hey, what's courage? What's justice? What's temperance? What's friendship? And he gets all these answers. Well, in Laches, he asks a question, what is courage? And now Laches, he's like, oh, I know this is easy. So he says, courage is standing firm and not running in battle. And Socrates, Plato through Socrates says, well, that's not courage, because there are some people that fight while running or fight while on horseback, and they're riding around and they don't have to stand firm because they're riding all around. And the idea of this is to say that we are looking at examples of a virtue. So we're looking at a small piece of courage. So yes, part of courage includes standing firm in battle, but that's not all of courage. And Plato's dialogues are notorious for pointing out the fact that we can't define these things. The forms are bigger than our conception. So when he says, look to the form of a virtue, look to courage as a whole, we can't define that because we're talking about the forms, and the forms are bigger than our conception of the virtue. So those are the three ways that Plato comes at forms. There are many others, but in essence, the form is the thing that all the other things kind of point to. And that is kind of a rough idea of Platonic idealism. And if you need some more help, I have another video on the good, some videos on the cave. I'll try to link those up, and hopefully that will help. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them. If you want more examples, I'm happy to provide them. I hope this was helpful. I'm sorry if it was a little long. Thanks.